Another Nigerian community has been attacked. Another group of families has been torn apart. And this time, we are talking about an alleged mass kidnapping in Niger State involving hundreds of people. A video circulating on Facebook and WhatsApp appears to show around 600 women, children, and elderly people who residents said were adopted during attacks in Niger State.
To, alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah mabad. Ga dai mutanen ku kamar yadda kuka ganin su mazan su da matan su. Ga su da insha Allah kowa dai ya ga akwai dan uwan shi shiki. Waye ne baban shi yake shiki ko maman shi? Waye ne kanin shi yake ciki? Waye ne yaron shi yake ciki? Kowa dai ya gani ga su nan. Suna hannunmu da insha Allah. Ga su kamar yadda kuka gansu. Ga su. Insha Allah wannan da ya wadatar kowa ya ga ya duba nashi a ciki. Wanda yake akwai uban shi, wanda yake akwai uwar shi anan. Ko kannen shi sai ya duba.
Reuters was able to speak to residents who identified relatives in the video, but Reuters could not independently verify that there were exactly 600 captives. The Niger State government has also said the exact numbers is still being established. Earlier reports from the Associated Press put the numbers much lower at around 60 to 80 people. So whether it is 680 or another figure, the fundamental question remains the same. How did armed men manage to invade communities, attack worshippers, and take people away in the first place? Reuters reports that the attack affected communities including Dakera, Indazana, and Sabongida in Borgu area. A local official told Reuters that 30 people were killed and buried on Sunday, and around 2,000 residents reportedly fled towards neighboring Benin Republic. Think about that. 2,000 people running from their homes because they don't feel safe. This isn't just about kidnapping problem anymore. This is a failure of territorial security. And as a Nigerian, I have to ask, where was our intelligence? Where was the early warnings? Where was the rapid response? Where was the security forces before these communities were overrun? Because according to Reuters, security experts described the incident as evidence of how ineffective security operations have been in limiting the ability of armed groups to operate. And that's the part that should make Nigerians angry. Not because our security forces are incapable. They have demonstrated that they can do the job. Just a few weeks ago, Nigerian security agencies rescued 308 adopted Nigerians in Niger and Kwara states in a coordinated intelligence-led operation. The presidency described it as the largest number of adopted citizens rescued in a single day by the joint security team. So yes, credit where credit is due. When Nigerian security forces rescue people, we should acknowledge it. But here is the uncomfortable question. Why are we getting better at rescuing Nigerians after they have been kidnapped instead of preventing them from being kidnapped in the first place? That's where I believe the government deserves serious criticism. The federal government allocated 5.41 trillion naira for defense and security in 2026 budget, and President Tinubu himself said that security spending must come with clear accountability for outcomes. Good. Then let's talk about outcomes. Because Nigerians aren't eating budget allocations. Nigerians aren't sleeping inside spreadsheets. People want to be safe. And Punch reported that 31 state governments spent an estimated 252.26 billion naira on security during the first 6 months of this year, even as killings, kidnapping, and banditry continues. Seems to me that Nigeria has a lot of resources to throw around without no result. So at some point, Nigerians have every right to ask, where is the return of this enormous security spending? I'm not saying soldiers aren't working. I'm not saying police officers aren't risking their lives. And I'm certainly not blaming ordinary Nigerian security personnel for a crisis they didn't create. I'm questioning the system above them, the strategy, the intelligence architecture, the equipment, the coordination, the border security, the accountability, and the political leadership responsible for making sure all of these things work together. Because armed groups don't need to defeat the Nigerian military in a conventional battle. They only need to find communities where the state isn't present. And that is exactly what makes this so dangerous.
We're told that the reason why that attack happened is because the insurgent groups heard that the communities were calling for the military to establish bases around that area. And so they decided to attack them just to warn them that they don't want the military in those areas. This particular attack targeted rural communities in very difficult to access locations. So I can almost tell you confidently that those persons are not in any way within the national identity register. And so we should be very hesitant in taking any figures for now. Nigeria has a robust counter-terrorism strategy, one that has been commended globally. But one of the challenges is the inability to embed local communities. So what happens is local communities, unfortunately, are left at the mercies of these groups.
Once criminals realize that a remote community can be attacked with little immediate response, the community becomes vulnerable again and again. People stop farming, people stop traveling, children stop going to school, businesses leave, families flee, and eventually, criminals don't just steal people's money, they steal the future of the community. And we need to stop treating this attack as isolated incidents. Families in Borno State still demanding action over children adopted months ago. Reuters reported last week that families of children kidnapped from classrooms in Borno State protested after nearly 100 days without their children being returned. Around 45 children were still reported missing by the local leader. I want to see my daughter!
Kanana akwai mai shekara 1 da rabi, akwai mai shekara 2, akwai mai shekara 4, iyaka wanda suka kai shekara 10 shine yaran jiya nan. To yawanci yaran nan yara kanana ne a dube mu domin a bayana mana da yana domin mu yi farin ciki.
So this is not one bad weekend. It is a national security problem. And yes, the criminals deserve our strongest condemnation. Whoever kidnapped these children should be hunted down, arrested, and prosecuted. There should be no romanticizing banditry, no excuses, no political protection, no ransom economy becoming a permanent business model. But Nigerian government also cannot simply respond after every attack by saying we have other security agencies to rescue the victims. Nigerians have had that sentence too many times. We need protection, we need prevention, we need intelligence before attacks, we need surveillance of vulnerable corridors, we need strong border controls, we need rapid response capabilities, we need cooperation between federal agencies and state government and local communities. And we need consequences when intelligent failures repeatedly allow armed groups to operate freely. Because here is my question to the Nigerian government. How many more communities have to be attacked before we admit that the current security architecture isn't delivering enough? And here is my question to Nigerians. When did we become so accustomed to kidnapping that another adoption barely shocks us anymore? This should shock us. A mosque should be a place of worship. A village should be a place where people can sleep peacefully. A Nigerian child should worry about school, not whether armed men are coming. So, yes, Mr. President, rescue these Nigerians, bring them home, hunt down the people responsible. But after they are home, don't just move on to the next crisis or to the upcoming election. Find out how this happened. Find out what intelligence were missed. Find out why the perpetrators had the freedom to operate and fix the system. Because Nigerians don't need another promise that the government is deeply concerned. Deeply concerned. We need security. We need accountability. And we need results.